then we'll have it available. Now then, thanks guys for being here this morning. We'll get this thing up and running. We've got several other folks I'm sure will be coming along, but let's do this as we start. I know of a couple of guys that aren't going to be able to be here. This morning, we're just going to be talking about what do we do with these folks that always see from them as a smiley face or a like or those kinds of things. But as we do, let me do this. Let me pray, and as we go around, we'll introduce ourselves to folks that may not know, and then we can kind of kick up and run. This is really going to be a relaxed kind of deal. There's no long agenda. But let me pray first, and then we'll kick things off and go as we get started this morning. Father, I thank you for a good morning. I thank you for technology. I thank you for friendship and fellowship, the brotherhood of ministry. I pray that you'd be with us as we go forward. We ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, guys, this morning, share with us, James, you're at the top left on my side. Share with us who you are, and then we'll just kind of work our way through this as we go.
All right, I'm James Featherstone. I just retired as pastor at Calvary Baptist Church after 22 years and pastoring 46 years. And now I'm just doing pulpit supply and interims and revivals and, Bible conferences and Bible studies and stuff. So I'm just getting used to that and transitioning.
Okay.
And you're in Huntsville.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm in Huntsville,
James Featherstone.
north of Houston.
Okay.
All right.
Close to
No,
Charles, grandbaby.
Yes, sir. Brother, let's see, who next? Charles.
Hey, my name's Charles. I pastor Pathway Baptist Church in Odessa, Texas, the land of dirt and no trees. And Mark, I like your goatee, man. I'm jealous.
Thank you.
Don't be talking. Don't do that.
I'll talk to his mom.
Mark, go ahead since he was impressed with you, brother.
Well, I'm Mark Bradbury. I'm with the Way at Southline with Brother Paul. We just merged together and formed a new church there. And I got my father here with me, Kirk Bradbury, and we may swap over. I'm trying to get it onto my big computer so we can see it a little bit better instead of my iPhone. So if we tune out, we'll be tuning right back in.
Okay.
And we're living in Conroe, Texas.
Okay. Brother Paul,
Yes, sir.
tell us about you, man.
You're muted. You're muted.
You're
Muted.
muted again, brother. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. I got a teacher over here. She's trying to teach me how to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
I can't figure it out. So you know how it is. I'm Paul Gothard with the Way at Southline. They're in Cleveland, Texas. And I'm with Brother Mark there with the guy with y'all love the goatee there. And we call us the Flat Top Mohawk Connection. So we're going good in the Lord. Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah. Amen. Mark's church and
Good to
Paul's
be here.
church just merged this last couple of months and are kind of replanning and restarting as they do so that they can revitalize that church. So anyway, listen, guys, here's what I know. In March of last year, Mark, I see you now, brother. March of last year, every preacher I know became a TV preacher. Not because we wanted to, but by necessity. And so in the midst of that, we're now at a place that most churches are getting post-COVID. But what do you do with those online folks? And why? How important are they to the church? Listen, what I know is some of the pastors, when they began doing COVID in the COVID stuff, what they ended up with was it looked like an Al-Qaeda video rather than a preaching service. I mean, the quality was poor, the sound was poor, but in all of those kinds of things, we now, as we began to look a year into that, what are we going to do with those guys? What is going to be the connection? You know, I know some guys that simply said this: hey, for us, online was a stopgap. It's just what we had to do to try to keep things together. As soon as we can get back, I know some guys that have simply said, we're done. We're not going to do it anymore. We know other folks that are still dealing with families and churches that are in a fear state, that not sure what that's going to look like. And I think other churches have said, this is going to become a vital part of who we are. And so today we just want to talk about that. What do you guys see? What have you done? How's it working? And what's the plan for your online stuff? How many of you guys have an active online part of the church ministry? Okay, Charles, tell me what does Pathway's online presence look like?
Well, we have horrible internet service here, so we were working towards live streaming before COVID hit. COVID hit, and we were forced to do it like everybody else. We muddled through the live stream with the internet connection going off and on Sunday mornings. So what we do is we do not live stream. We do record our service, video record our service, and upload it on Monday morning now. It just works better because of internet. Okay. And so that's what we do. Okay.
So do you have like a YouTube channel or a Vimeo channel or something that you do, or do you just load it to Facebook?
We have a YouTube channel that we upload it to, and we also share that YouTube channel to our Facebook page.
Okay.
And we have people that are watching us, not just from Odessa. We have a presence literally halfway around the world. You know, not a huge presence. I'm no Joel Osteen or Dennis Parrish or anything, but you know.
Amen, brother.
Listen, I'm sorry. I have to take my shoes off. We've entered into holy ground here with that.
We have others that are not in the area that watch us. We have seniors now that COVID has scared them to the point where they will never come back at this point in time to a live church service. It's sad, but it's a reality of the way it is.
Okay.
We one more thing, and I'll shut up. We also have the issue with people liking. You know, clicking the like button, we send them an invite, but the greatest majority of those people we never hear from.
Okay. Okay. And I think that's a common problem that a lot of guys that I deal with probably about 400 churches all over Southeast Texas, and of course through the ministry across the state. And I think we're all finding that same situation. So-and-so liked it. I had a pastor tell me not long ago that, and this was his comment, a very rural church, small church, said, I've been very discouraged, but we found that more people are watching our service than are in person, and so I've been encouraged by that. And I'm encouraged because of those kinds of things, Charles. Like you said, people we've never heard of are connecting with us. But what I challenged him to do is go back and look at the analysis of you know, on Facebook, you can do an analysis. It's not going to tell you, IP addresses. It's not going to tell you who they are, but it will break it down as to how long they have watched. Because a like or a watch could be anything from 3 seconds to the entire service. And what we found, and I put this in the notes that I sent out to folks, was this. If you have 55 views on Sunday morning and 35 of those are 5 seconds or less, are you really reaching those people? And so that's what I tell folks all the time. The first thing to do when you start looking at what your online presence looks like is, listen, I could be surfing the web and come across something that I wanted to just look at. And in about 2 or 3 seconds, I've realized, well, that's not what I thought it was, and I'm gone. And so I think having a good analysis of what we think we're getting is always going to be one of the things that's important. Brother James, tell me about what Calvary's online presence was like.
Well, we of course, when the COVID hit, we immediately began to record our services and post them like Charles does, for people that weren't able to come, And at first, of course, we met in the parking lot when we could and had outside service, everybody in their cars. But we posted those things on Monday. But then we got a live camera, so we could live stream it and stuff. And we started doing that about, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, 7 months. I guess about 7 months ago now. And then we still posted it and stuff. And mostly what we got was our own people, who weren't coming. Like Charles said, we have a lot of them that won't come back because they're scared, type of stuff. But they were starting to open back up again. And we got where we were getting most people back that other way, but it just took a while. Yet you have to have some reasons and special events to get them to come back. But as far as follow-up, that's what I was hoping to get from you guys. I was looking at the Equip conference that's coming up in August. Dennis, will any of those guys address this kind of issue there? I was looking at some of the stuff they had. They said like reach Generation Z and keep them and stuff like that. But I didn't know if that had anything to do with this or not.
Yeah, Jay, and for the other guys that may not know, there's the SBTC does an Equip conference, an equipping conference every year. This year in August, it's in Champion Forest in Houston. They will have a track for technology, but I don't know, and that's the reason that I wanted to make this a topic for us. I don't know of a lot of folks. I know there's a lot of stuff out there. When I put this stuff together, I researched from other sources, but I don't know that there's anything about how to do this well that's going to come through the Equip conference. One of the other things that we're working on, and this will be something that we'll do at the next time we meet, is do you have a good established progressive plan to connect with guests and members who are absent? What I'm working on is a 7-week program that would initiate social media, in-person contact so that your church could track and stay with, even if they don't come back for a week or two, guests and members. But again, there's some of that out there. There's a great organization called Text in Church, but the cost for that is exorbitant for a small church that doesn't have 30 people that can volunteer to take part in that, or doesn't have the equipment programming or the computer programming software to do those kinds of things. But we're working on some of those kinds of things, but follow up and connecting with the like. How do we find out who they are? And James, you said this just a minute ago about your folks. For folks to connect with you, there's got to be a reason. What is the reason we give them for them to want to connect with us? And then do some things that will. Years ago, I taught 7 laws for 7 laws for the learner, I think was the name of the material that came out. And one of them was this: whose job is it to teach? Whose job is it to teach? Is it the teacher, or the administrator? And so the only way that we're going to connect with those guys is we have to provide for them a reason in the beginning to want to be connected to us. And I understand the gospel, the reason, but sometimes that's not even on their radar when they find us. They just look at Charles' face and his seersucker suit that he wore to church last Sunday and think, man, that guy stinks cool. I want to follow him around for a little while. Or because he's on the Fox News there in Odessa with his was your wife with you on there, brother?
No, that was the
food
director
pantry.
of
Food pantry. Yeah. And there's a long story behind that. Most of you guys know that I reached out to you. He had the LGBTQ community came after them about 2 months ago and broke into his office and all kind of stuff, that after a funeral and the news film crew from the news came out and found out what was going on, but they were doing a food pantry on Sunday, passing out food, and now they've come back to, is it at the same channel to do a
no, the channel that came out yesterday was the channel that wanted to pursue the hatred that we had toward the LGBTQ community.
Yeah.
And so wasn't even mentioned. it's a very positive story.
And they did a great positive story on the food pantry the church in Odessa does there. So anyway, but what that looks like, Brother Mark, Brother Paul, tell me, I know you guys have been separate, and I know, Mark, your church has been a little, a church plant. It's going to be a little bit, can I say this, a little bit less traditional than what Brother Paul's church has been in the past, but what does that look like as far as online presence for you guys? Neither one of you can go first.
Brother Mark, go ahead. I'll let you explain.
Well, when we were doing the Way Fellowship here on, when COVID hit, it really turned into video. But before that, we were always trying to promote the church plant, posting live, Facebook Live, and working that way. And I realized that I had more of an online presence than I did here at the house, trying to get people to come here. You know, I had about 12 people that's been stayed faithful with me ever since we started the church plant. But I was reaching a lot of people in my workplace, and they were tuning in and watching the services and questioning me about the different messages and stuff, but I could never get them to come to the house.
Yeah.
So most of my ministry actually turned into an online presence through Facebook Live. But what I found was consistency. I had to make sure that I was coming on at a specific time every time. And I didn't need to miss a week or something. And if I did, I needed to make sure I'd put at least a little post or something at that time to say, hey, we're still here, but this is what's going on. Because if I missed a week and next week I come back, my viewership would just drop drastically.
Right.
And it'd take a while to build it back up.
Okay.
So we have to, that's the one thing I would say in all of this is staying consistent. And then we have a video that we just posted this past week of our service for 4th of July with Brother Paul's daughter was leading out singing the national anthem, and then Brother Paul spoke. It was only 33 minutes long, and we had 300, we've had over 400 something engagements, and Daddy was asking me, what does that mean? And we were looking at the analytics. After about 9 minutes, there's only 1 or 2 or 3 people still left watching. They tuned in, they saw the song, and
probably like my daughter singing.
Yeah, they like their singing, but in about the 10-minute mark.
Mark, are you saying they don't like you preaching?
I ain't gonna go there because I was just sitting here thinking about that as we were talking, that perhaps in our live stream and stuff like that, is if we had the capability, which me and Brother Paul do, because we've got 2 different, I can record from my phone and his wife records from hers. We could possibly do a small snippet just for the internet viewers of about 10 minutes, no more than that. So that way we can get them engaged and they'll watch the whole thing and we can get the full message out and then say, hey, if you want to continue watching and here's some more of this, we're going to be on our regular channel and we'll be continuing on with this, and then they can swap over if they wanted to or something. It's just an idea that popped into my head, is maybe making it for that social media crowd a shorter message that they could stay tuned into. And that way you get more in depth.
All right, Brother Paul, you got any wisdom and insight?
I don't know if I got any wisdom or not. I did study on wisdom last night. It comes from God. But I don't know about the internet and all that stuff. But no, I felt led about in 2018, I believe it was, even before all this COVID got started in different things, and we was having problems with that. And I just felt led by God to start doing that, and it just seemed like it was working out well, even at the beginning, and we started getting more people tuning in and different things that are not. And this, what we're doing today, is very helpful for us to know, and even some things that I just heard to help us to. I like that consistent word that Brother Mark was saying. We got to be consistent. We were having a little bit of problem sometimes because when we start the services, you start at 10:50 or 10:45, and if you're a few minutes late, and we usually try to start it after all the music and all the things that we do beforehand. And And if you're not consistent, and now we're going to try to start it exactly at 11:15.
Yeah.
And that's me and Brother Mark been discussing that, so we be more consistent.
Okay.
And so, but I think it's great being able to reach more people for Christ, even though they might not come to your church. But I was wondering how we could, and even just some of the things y'all said today about reaching out to these people that would come in, that listen in, and how that will work out in the future. Oh, by the way, my wife's with me today listening also. So what's your words, Jack?
So here's what I know. Because she is, the intelligence and the beauty of this crowd has gone up.
Amen. Amen to that.
Yeah, I saw that hand.
Of course, with Brother Kirk watching back in the background, the age of our group went up as well. So.
Brother Kirk, he's a good man.
Hey, I represent that fact.
Yes, sir. I'm waiting for some red beans and rice, brother. Hey, let me do this. I don't want to keep y'all all day. Let me just throw out some things. Number one, here's what that I think is paramount for any of us as we start, is going forward. What is going to be the purpose of our online presence? What are we going to do? Why are we there? Is it to facilitate the needs of folks who can't be there from our church? Is it going to be more inward focused or outward focused? Is it going to be to facilitate the fact, and somebody said this, that there are folks that are fearful that still won't come. The balance of that is folks who've gotten lazy and just won't come. How do we balance that? But how do you determine what you're going to have to determine in your church and in every church? What is the focus and design of your online presence? Is it going to be to provide resources and connectivity for folks that may be halfway around the world? Or is it going to be to provide resources and connectivity for folks in your church? I don't think it has to be either or, but I don't think that you can have consistency, continuity, and success if you don't begin to focus on exactly why you're there. But I think that's number one. What's the presence going to be? Here's what I've heard. Number two, I think we have to do everything we do with excellence. And if you're recording with inferior quality product, and I hate to use that word, but what you're putting out is not quality. Like I said, if it looks more like an Al Qaeda video than a church service, folks aren't going to watch you. You may get posted on some YouTube channel as look how awful church is, or those kinds of things, but you may not have the budget, but do the very best you can with what you have. And I would say this: don't try to do stuff you're not capable of. Determining if what you do, and I think Brother Charles and some of the others said, we're not doing a live video on Sunday mornings. That means this: the upside to that is this: if you're simply lazy, you're going to miss church. If you can get in your car and come to the church, you need to be in church. Me making it easy for you to sit home, sitting in your rocking chair, drinking coffee, watching television when you feel like it, is developing bad habits for your church members. And so you're able to provide ministry to those that can't be there, but you're not making it easy for those that simply don't want to be there. So that might be a consideration. Now, there are a lot of channels and stuff out there, and you guys are already using them. Cost effective YouTube channels, Vimeo channels, Facebook, those kinds of things are always there. Five things that I'm looking at a couple of things that you guys have said. Consistency. Brother Paul said this: starting at the same time every time. Brother Mark said making sure that folks know if you're not going to be there. But the question then becomes, how can we develop a relationship with guys that are watching online? Here's what I know. Most churches that do online treat their online crowd as if they're simply an add-on. Most guys, when it starts, guys, thank you for being here today. For you, those of you that are watching us online, please know we're glad that you're here. If we can help in any way, please let us know, yada, yada, yada. And from there on, there's never a thought, there's never an action, there's never an intent addressed to those people. It's just the folks. That'd be kind of like inviting you to a Zoom meeting, and the whole time we're here, James and I just talk. We ignore you. We don't ever pay any attention to you. One of the guys earlier said this: finding ways to specifically connect those online viewers, whether it's before the service. Listen, during the service, if you have a chance, at least once or twice, turn your focus from those folks that are in front of you to those folks that are watching you.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, I know this, but listen, you guys online, let me make sure you understand this. But trying to make them feel connected. If you have the ability, and even ask questions. Now, I know this, in your sermon, you probably, I only know two guys. I knew a guy who in Houston, this was years ago, set up the technology that if you were listening or watching online, you could send a question into the sound booth. The sound booth had the ability to send that to the stage. He had a little small monitor built into his pulpit. And even if you were in the crowd, you could type in a question, send it, it would pop up on his screen. And if he wanted to and chose to, he could stop right where he was and say, listen, someone has just asked this question about what I said. Now, if we did that at my place, we would never get finished. but having the ability to interact with them, if you can find a way to make them feel connected, the chances are of them staying connected are much greater. If they're simply an add-on that's there, like the third wheel on a date, pretty soon they're going to be ready to go somewhere else, and so they may not stay, because most of those folks, you're never going to get beyond a like or smiley face until we can build some kind of relationship. We've got to get beyond the fact that it's just a smiley face. I know some folks that do this. Hey, if you're watching today, man, we would love to have a point of contact for you. Most of us do this. If you're a guest for the first time today, before you leave, we'd love to have you stop by our Welcome Center and let us give you a gift of thanks. Maybe finding a way to do that virtually online. Now, you may not give them a coffee mug or a pen, but you may can provide them means by which that if you will just let us know that you were here, mostly by an email or phone number, then we would love to give to you a gift of thanks. Whatever that would look like would vary. It may be Brother Mark's newest book that he just wrote, that he's now got published. Or if you need books, you call me and I'll send you some of mine. Or James, Dr. Featherstone has a hope. James, do you still have your library?
Well, what's left of it, yeah, upstairs.
Brother James has probably the largest library of any pastor I've ever known. He is retiring. He's trying to get rid of books. He's still got 3,000, 2,000.
Yeah, it's a lot.
A lot books in his library. He's looking for a home. So if you'd like to have some books,
For free.
For free.
For free.
Yeah. Unless you got to come from Odessa, then you may have to bring a U-Haul trailer. But in the midst of that, that's for free. But but what we're looking at is how do we begin to connect with those guys? Tell me what you guys do when a guest shows up at your church. I walk into your church for the first time. What does that scenario look like?
One of the things that me and Brother Paul right now are trying to develop as we're moving forward, we're in our leadership team, that's on our list of setting up. How do we want our Sunday from the very moment they view the building until they walk in and leave after the service? We want to plan that out, and we're trying to work towards that. So we're going through all those questions right now that you're asking. How do we greet our guests? And we do know that we want to have out there. We want to make sure that they find person or they want a cup of coffee when they get there. We want people there be able to engage them with a friendly, open, smile attitude, and just let them morning worship service be just as perfect as we can get it for our guests that come in. We're even going so far, we're looking at terminology. Do we want to use visitor versus guest? Things that we kind of talked about when we were meeting with you, Brother Dennis. We've really taken it and trying to take it to that next level of how we're going to set things up. But it takes some time, especially with us as we're merged two groups together, which is we're concentrating more inwardly right now, making sure that everyone's melding well together, becoming that one family.
Okay. And here's what I fear in a lot of churches is that there's not even a good plan of how do you deal with folks who walk in as guests into your church. So many churches say, if you're a first-time guest, please stand, fill out a visitor's card, and we're so glad you're here. In the world we live in today, first-time guests are not likely to fill out a visitor's card just on their own. So if we don't have a good, solid, workable plan for in-house guests, we certainly can't expect to have an ability to build a relationship with folks who simply are online. I think one of the keys is going to be, how do we develop the same kind of an intentional online relationship? The best thing you can do online is work toward getting a point of contact. If I can get an email, if I can get a phone number, then I have a way to connect with you to do that. And so not baiting them, not trying to set them up, but doing those kinds of things, I think it's important. It's easier for me to do that when I'm connected directly to you. So one of the things simple, easy things I tell churches is this: as you have a plan for your in-house guests, have a plan for your online guests. Be intentional, be connective. Listen, it may be, and technology is there, that Brother Charles is the pastor of online. I don't know what you'd call it, but the concept is on Sundays, your job, brother, as a volunteer, as a staff member, as somebody who knows how to work a computer, is if folks are coming online or even afterwards, that they're watching you through YouTube, man, you have a duty every week to try to find ways to connect with them. In the beginning of the service, rather than just going into the sermon, insert into that video a note of welcome, of connectivity, and use consistency so that every Sunday, if they come back, they're going to see that smiling face there again with the same message, the same opportunity, just trying to build that relationship.
That works, Brother Dennis. If I can say something there,
Please.
when we were doing live stream, Tony, our youth pastor, did that. When a guest or even a member would come on, he made sure that he interacted with them each and every time.
Yes.
And he would even share, scripture on the screen, because we didn't have lower thirds or anything like that. The way we do it now, it's kind of difficult because people don't comment. They'll like, but they won't comment.
Right. And
Brother Dennis, I do like that idea a lot. What
Okay.
you're just saying, it gave me and my wife both ideas, and I know Brother Mark's listening in also about.
sure.
I like that intentional online connection. I love that.
And I think
Thank
that's what we have to do. Yeah, we have to do that.
Yes, sir.
And so tell me this, of first-time guests. Now, here's the other part of that coin. Folks that come to your church because they have been specifically invited by someone in your church, you already have a relationship with them. If someone who's online is there because someone in the church has invited them, then the connectivity to that is going to be that, hey, you and I had a talk at work today, James, and Sunday you're going to be online. Well, Monday, my job at work is to say, hey, did you watch us Sunday? So it's not just the staff, it's the folks at work, the folks that you deal. And if you did, we'd love to connect with you beyond just that. Again, man, we want to let you know about upcoming events. And somebody said a while ago, we have to have reasons and special events to bring those in. I think James said that. But the next point I had is those folks that are online, trying to find a way to develop them as a community. If I know that I am important to the church, when you have a youth event, how do you get youth there? Well, you design it for the youth and you do youthy things. If you're doing a senior adult banquet, not many teenagers show up, but you're and so developing for your online a specific community, a specific, even at one point, I think I talked about developing a brand, a name, something that folks can identify with. As I can begin to do that, you may be surprised. You may walk in at Walmart and somebody go, "Hey, Brother Mark, man, I'm part of the the way online," or whatever you call it, so that you can have all of those kinds of things in place. I just had a visitor walk in my door, surprised me. What's up, bud?
My dad needs a blood pressure machine.
Okay, I'm online in a meeting. I'll have to do it after I get offline. Okay, tell him to give me a few minutes. No, right now I'm in a meeting. Grandsons will have to come back in a while.
You let that grandbaby do what he wants to do.
No, sir. There's 3 of them. They're like a swarm of honeybees. They will be all over you in a heartbeat. They come in my office and get on my computer. I have an old Sega Genesis, and they get in here and play computer games about half the time when I'm not here. But in the midst of all that, I ran them out. So my son needed a blood pressure cup. He'll have to wait for me to get finished in a little while. But in the midst of all those kind of things, developing that community, having them become involved is one of the things. Finding a way to make them feel like they're part of who you are and they're valuable to who you are, I think is important. You also have to be patient. Now, when all of this stuff I'm saying to you probably is not going to work for those 3-second connections. Not much we do is going to connect. If that's a good starting point, and if they'll come back enough times, they may develop into that. One of the guys said that 8 or 9 minute segment. Listen, what I would make sure, if I know that my daughter's singing is going to bring a crowd, at the same time, during that key time, I need to be intentional in connecting with those who will be online with her. How do we encourage them to go beyond what that would look like? Each church will have to develop that as they go forward. Is she going to be in a concert somewhere? Is she going to be doing something as part of your vacation Bible school for kids? Is she going to be available, and say, look, if you liked her singing, here's what we're going to do. This is just on Saturday at 2:00, we're going to do a live online concert. And she's going to come and sing for an hour.
That's an idea.
And that is specifically for your online group. Now, your church folks can come, but the goal of that is to connect with, and those kinds of ingenuity and things may be a key to helping bring some of those guys back. And so having someone, we talked about consistency. Brother Charles, you said Tony every week. If he becomes the face of your online crowd, then that means this: when you walk into Walmart, they're going to see him and not see you. But that's okay, as long as they're connecting with them. Okay.
I've actually had people, when I was doing my online, and the people at where I was working at Lowe's were sharing the videos and stuff. I actually had people out in town go, "Hey, I've seen you before," and we'd start talking, and it was from my videos.
Right.
And that was kind of neat in itself, but it showed me I was actually starting to reach some people.
Yeah.
In engagements there.
Well, and you know this, in your church, in-house, you have, if your church is old enough, you're going to have a Lydia class. or you're going to have a Galilean class, or you're going to have whatever that's going to look like. And the idea is not to subdivide your church. It's not to break it into pieces, but it's to give identity. Because that means that on Sunday morning, whatever that class looks like, a young adult class, the church that I was at has a single adult ministry on Friday night called Fortify. And when you ask the guys about Fortify, it's part of the church over there, but it's specifically designed for that. We'll develop that with intentionality for your online ministry. What does that look like? What is that online ministry going to be called? Can you develop that, a brand for that? I think I said that earlier, a specific identity so that folks can say connection to that. And as you go and bring consistency, the ultimate goal of all of this, for me, the ultimate goal for all of this is to get folks from a like to a relationship to in a pew, whether it's your church or somebody else's church. And so I think that's another thing that could be possible. I'm trying to look and see what else I put in here. I have to be reminded. That every like is a real person. Now I can't simply say to a person who surfed in, surfed out in 3 seconds, that's a real connection for my church. But it's an opportunity for those kinds of things. What I'm targeting is those folks that will come and stay even a minute or 2 minutes, or they begin to come every week. Once they get comfortable having the potential to reach out to you and to connect with you beyond just a smiley face or a like. If you're on Facebook, if they put a connection on there, a like or a love or a smiley, if you'll tap on that, it'll give you their names. If you're doing Facebook, you're in YouTube, or you're doing one of those others, it will not. But trying to begin to be intentional in building that is always important. Being responsive. If Brother James sends me a request, hey, I watched your service Sunday and I have a question about this, and it's 3 days before I respond to him, I've lost any ability to try to build relationships there. If Brother Mark at that church is going to be the go-to person on that, any connections needs to be responded to ASAP. If you're in your office and a deacon calls, or one of your sweet ladies call, or somebody and says, I have a need, and you think, I'll take care of that in 3 or 4 days, you're just not being a good pastor. And so finding ways to respond to that as well. Let me see what else. One of the things that might be a good thing, and again, are you guys posting your videos and stuff on your website?
We're in the process.
Or just on Facebook, or whatever social media outlet you use. One of the things that could be, again, specifically for your online group, is developing conversations, question conversations. Sunday morning, as we have our connectivity for our online group, hey guys, this week we want you to know, Tuesday morning, we're going to be on here. We're going to talk to you about whatever the topic is. And we'd love to have you be able to respond to that. We'd love to be able to have you connect to that. And even if you get online and there's 2 people that show up, you're connecting with 2 people now, if it's 2 people that are your deacons, then you need to review, the productivity of what you're doing. But one way to connect with those folks is not to talk to them, but to ask them questions. Because if I ask a question, hey, tell me what you're reading right now. Every person automatically has an answer. And if I feel like you value my opinion, then I'm going to share with you. You know what? I'm going through my library. I know this is not deep. Studies in the book of Amos. A little simple book that was put out by the Southern Baptist Convention in 1966. I just found this looking through my library yesterday. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to read that. Tell me what you're reading. Have them find an area of community that they can come back to and say, look, do a book club. I just had a conversation with the pastor. There's a little booklet out there most of you are familiar with called Autopsy of a Deceased Church, which is a great little simple study. Do that specifically for your online group, just like you would do Experiencing God for your Wednesday night group, and try to begin to build some of those kinds of things. I know this, the thrill of online for me went away about the third week of outdoor services. When FM converters became like finding the golden ticket in the Chocolate Charlie factory or whatever that's called, and preaching on Easter Sunday in a pouring rainstorm while everybody was in their car eating donuts and drinking coffee, I was pretty much done with all that. But I do believe this, that online stuff is here to stay. It's not going to go away, but we have to do it effectively. So, any ideas or thoughts from you guys?
Yeah, one of the things that I've learned, because I've been studying up, because I'm in the process of developing and starting a YouTube channel for my own personal ministry and stuff, is one of the things that every YouTuber, every guy on video says is more important than the video is the audio. No matter if you're posting up your videos later or if you're doing live stream, if the audio is not worth it, they're going to turn it off immediately. Audio is actually more important than your video element.
Yeah.
In that instance. So make, like you said, if you're not putting out a quality product, maybe wait until you can get the right equipment that you can. And it's not that much. I mean, I realized after talking with Brother David, and he came to the church and we were talking about wanting to live stream stuff, and it was actually going through our sound system is not very much to get that set up and what it looks like. But after that, make sure you got the proper lighting. You got to make sure you got your staging really well, so your audio is more important than your video, but then your video, you got to have a good picture also.
Sure. Yeah, quality is important. Quality is important.
Quality product.
Yeah.
So
and technology is not hard to learn. You just have to learn it sometimes.
Yes, sir.
Any other ideas about online stuff? About maybe things you've thought about, things you've read concerning how do we capture these folks? And the truth is, part of them we're not going to capture. But how do we go about trying to make sure we do capture those that can? Any other input ideas?
I've got ideas, but one of them is we're trying to put the word of Jesus out there, and not necessarily that's the most important thing, and maybe doing it from a different location in the church. I mean, if we're trying to build that online presence, there's several ways you can go about it. You can try to promote the church and do from the live service, but perhaps also we could look at doing something during the middle of the week also.
Okay. And one of the things I think, Brother Mark, that could possibly be, as you begin to build those connections, if you got a coffee shop in town, or you got a cafe in town, that maybe you have folks that wouldn't. Isn't it amazing that folks that won't come to your church will go to the restaurant to eat? Is begin to build a Bible study time in a public setting that is not nearly as threatening as walking into the church. Again, promoting that to say, look, and again, it's okay to do that to the folks that are in the pews, but the goal of online is to develop and get those folks that aren't in the pews to the pews. And so the next step may be, hey, come and let me buy you some coffee and let's just have some study time together. Here's the offer this week. Now, Brother Charles, if you're watching, if you got folks in Nebraska watching you, they're probably not going to be able to meet you in coffee unless you drive to Oklahoma City. But if it's an OU game, I'll go with you. So, but finding those. So what are some ideas if I have guys in Nebraska that are watching me? How can I connect with them?
Be able to study material. If they're interested and they want to get into it, you can mail them copies of that or email it to them so they can print it out where they have something. You get that connection with that, like you're talking about offering them a gift. But we can send you this Bible study material that we've got and go with that.
Okay. How about if they'd like to have a 67 Mustang, 66 Mustang? What was it, brother?
65, brother.
65 Mustang.
Brother.
Look at there. He asked me to buy him one. I did.
You did. Got it right here.
So it may not even have to be as spiritual as just a way to begin to say, man, I care about you. I care about you, and I want to be connected with you. As we build this network, I've got guys that are now in the network that are coming into the network that I've got two guys, one in Muleshoe and one in Lubbock, but the only connection I have with them is through social media and that are both coming into the network. And so part of it is relationship, but it's just finding those ways to say to them, man, we care about you, and getting beyond just simply a face that I watch on a Sunday morning. And so being creative, say, okay, my question for our online group is, you know, and frame something that's, you know, what did you think of, you know, some X-rated movie or R-rated movie that came out that Arnold Schwarzenegger or, you know, somebody was in? May not be the right question, but finding something in the community. If they live in Odessa, what's the newest, hottest restaurant? Hey, have any of you guys been to so-and-so to eat? What did you think of the food? Just building conversation can ultimately lead to building a relationship. Hopefully, ultimately would begin to build to church membership. Here's what I know. If James Featherstone and I began to build a relationship and he ends up at Brother Paul's church, I've been successful.
Brother Dennis, Lisa just, while we was listening to this, she just posted a question on Facebook page on the way at South. What are you looking for on an online church service?
Yes.
And
yes.
little questions like that, and that's why I got her here. Amen.
You better keep her around.
Brother Mark, he has a lot of ideas too. That I'm old school, so you know how old school guys are. We just preach the word, brother. And but this is all great. I'm enjoying this. Getting a lot of insight. Thank you.
And question again, if you value me enough to ask me a question, then you've opened the door to relationship. And so it may be that we can begin to do. And again, I'm gonna say, don't expect if 35 of your 55 views are 3 seconds that you're going to capture those guys. You're probably not. But what if you could capture 3 of those guys that are being there 2 minutes to 5 minutes, and in 6 months to a year, they're now active in your church, especially if they're tithers in the name of Jesus.
I think the main thing for me is, I forget who mentioned it. It might have been Mark, is consistency. You know, this scares me. I don't mind standing up in front of a group of people, but when you turn a camera on, or you're holding it in your hand through your iPhone and trying to connect digitally, that scares the devil out of me. I don't have a face for TV anyway, so. And I started out in COVID trying to do something every day, whether it's a devotional or something like that online. And I got frustrated because I wasn't seeing any fruit of it, to be honest with you. So I quit. And had I stayed consistent with that, it might be a different story.
Well, and doing that, and then what was the reason you were doing it, and what was your target? You know, targeting your church members is one thing, targeting those folks who may be coming from somewhere else. So what was the content of my devotion for today? So when Tony Evans does 2 minutes with Tony on the radio, is he addressing his church, or is he addressing the listening audience on the radio?
Radio.
And I think that's probably now, most of that stuff he took out of his sermon, but the reason it's on the radio is because it fits the radio audience just as much as it would fit. And the truth is this: I'm not going to go sit and listen to Tony Evans for an hour and a half every week, but I may listen to him for 2 minutes as I'm driving down the road to get a little snippet somewhere. And so I think that again, intent, content are two things that are vitally important. Okay. Anything else on this? I don't know if this has been a benefit. Maybe it's caused some questions. I believe this, and I said this in the stuff I sent out. The Bible says, forsake not the assembling of yourselves together. And I think that means this, that while we are glad for social media, you and I love Zoom meetings, but we cannot have koinonia fellowship until we're sitting together, arm in arm, heart in heart, in a worship service together. We just can't. And so my great fear for social media is that it's going to be a tool. And I know it already is, because I met with the church this week who is looking at a man to come as their interim, who his entire church ministry around the world is online. He has nothing local visible. Everything he does is online, and he has a great following all around the world. But I do not think that we can have church unless we're meeting together as the church. And so what we're talking about is ways to move folks from viewers to participators as we go forward. Okay. All right. Anybody else have any great pearls of wisdom they want to throw out at us right quick?
You ain't got it.
Sir?
So you don't have one of
What a
these,
good looking coffee cup you have, brother. Does everybody have, do all of y'all have a coffee cup from the ministry?
I use mine to sight in my rifle.
Good. Good. That's a good thing. That or dip in the toilet when it stopped up. One of those other two things. Yeah. Brother Charles, you do not have a coffee cup.
No, I do not.
Oh my gosh. Well, listen, here's the hook. You'll come to Lubbock in September, I'll give you one.
I will. I'll definitely put that on my calendar.
And let me do this. Let me close the recording of this down so that we can finish up. But I've got to see if I can find my recording button over here. I don't know what I've done with it. Stop recording. There it is. Stop.